Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies, and what a night it was for Bryce Harper. He hits his first home run of the year, his first hit of the year, and then follows it up with two more, including a grand slam. We're going to talk about how awesome that was and a great start by Spencer Turnbull in the win over the Reds. Plus, an insane story about Ricardo Pinto, who went 4 innings for the save last night for the Philadelphia Phillies, and how he ended up at Citizens Bank Park. Plus another weather update as the series probably going to be pushed back a day. We'll talk about it all on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Thank you so much for checking us out. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. We're going to talk about Bryce Harper in 1 second. I know you're all tuned in to hear about his night last night and my reaction to it. It was awesome. But real quick, I want to let you know, we got this new thing going on. So you used to see instant reaction videos from me to games. We've added another level this year, right? So now we have this thing called the postcast through Locked On. So you're going to see videos or you're going to hear audio sometimes on the podcast feed if you're listening to this in podcast form of another host. His name's Mark Farzetta. If you're familiar with the Philadelphia sports talk scene, Farzi's been doing this for a long time. He's a great talent. I'm very excited to have him as part of Locked On and part of Locked On Phillies. And he's going to be doing reaction videos, reaction episodes that'll be posted right after the game on the podcast feed and sometimes on the YouTube feed and everything. So if you hear Mark Farzetta talking about it, you tune into Locked On Phillies, you don't hear me. They haven't fired me yet. They haven't gotten rid of me. It's not like a change is coming. No, Mark is adding to what we're doing here. I'm very excited to work with Mark Farzetta. So that's just an update on what's going on there in case you heard his voice and were wondering. So that'll be fun. And what a night we had to react to last night. I mean, they're absolutely awesome moments in last night's game. Let's start with the big man. Bryce Harper had been hitless coming into this game. And we talked about, should we be worried about Bryce Harper? This is why you never, ever, ever worry about Bryce Harper. This is why worrying about how long his contract is insane. This is why worrying about giving him the contract extension is insane. I'm not saying the Phillies should do it because financially they've got a lot of stuff to go. But the question in that has never been, to me at least, well, what's going to happen if Bryce Harper's here until he's 45? Dude, if Bryce Harper is living and breathing, he can put on a Phillies uniform and play any day. Like, I'm good with that. And he was outstanding last night. 3 for 4. 3 home runs, 1 a grand slam, 6 RBIs in the game. He had another probably RBI hit, RBI double maybe, taken away by a great play in the outfield by the Reds. But my goodness, you love to see it. You love to see that breakout game from Bryce Harper. And that's just kind of what he is. Every time he slumps, he's just 1 game away, 1 at bat away from being a superstar again. And that's what makes him so special. This is why the Philadelphia Phillies will always be contenders with Bryce Harper, because the guy is a superhuman. And he put the team on his back last night. The Phillies scored 9 runs, and 6 of them were by way of Bryce Harper homers. The Reds only scored 4 runs. That would have been enough to win the game. Now, the Phillies got 9 in the game. You saw a Kyle Schwarber RBI hit. You saw you saw Bryce. My mind's all over the place. Brandon Marsh went ahead and went yard in this game last night. He was 3 for 4 in a really good game for Brandon Marsh facing a righty pitcher. And you know what? Looks like a pretty darn good hitter. We still got to figure out the lefties thing. Had a solid game against lefties earlier in this series, but that looked really, really good. So I really like what I'm seeing from the offense after last night's game. And a lot of it goes to number 3 and Bryce Harper. Like, I can't say enough good things about the guy. And that's why guys like Johan Rojas, I don't want to say don't matter, but what did Rojas go last night? Think about it. Yeah, he went 0 for 4. Didn't have a hit. Still doesn't have a hit for the year. He's 0 for to start the season. Now, I'm not expecting him to break out of that 0 for slump with a 3 home run game like Bryce Harper did, but Bryce Harper is part of the reason why he doesn't have to. Johan Rojas does not have to hit. It helps if he does. I want to see him improve. If he's batting 0 at the end of the month of April, he's not going to be on the major league team anymore. He's going to have to start hitting in some capacity, but it's not priority number 1 for the Philadelphia Phillies if that's the case. Much cleaner, smarter game of baseball last night. Again, it really helps when you get that type of offensive production from your best offensive player in Bryce Harper. But I love what I saw. I love the approach. I love the aggressiveness. And that was a win that should make you feel really good about where this Philadelphia Phillies team's ceiling is, because they have some guys that haven't even figured it out yet. Nick Castellanos is still in really rough shape. We were just talking about Rojas not having a hit on the year, but you can still win baseball games and win them regularly with the star power in this lineup. And when they start putting it all together, they're going to be super dangerous and super fun to watch. But it's not just all about the offense, right? You got a really good start from Spencer Turnbull. Went 5 innings. He gave up 3 hits, allowed 1 run, not earned. So his ERA is 0, 7 strikeouts. And he looked just really in control. He looked like a major league pitcher. He didn't look like if you didn't know Taijuan Walker existed, the reaction to that Spencer Turnbull start would have been, oh yeah, I can see why this guy made the team out of camp. He's only on this team because Taijuan Walker had that shoulder impingement that's still bothering him. He's not back with the team yet. So Turnbull's going to have to make multiple starts for this team to start the year. And after that performance, you should feel pretty darn good about having him as your 5th starter. Not saying it'll always be like that, but the other thing that this is good for, there are some questions about the bottom part of the bullpen, right? Those lesser pitchers, like the last 3 guys on the roster, basically. Well, when Walker comes back, if Turnbull continues to look like this, one of 2 things is going to happen. Either Turnbull's going to go back down, they're going to try and put him in AAA and get him into a situation where he can pitch as a starter down there and have him ready if other injuries occur, or he's going to do what Matt Strahm did last year. Remember, Matt Strahm was starting to start the year because of the Ranger Suarez injury. Then Ranger comes back, Strahm goes to the bullpen. He's a good long reliever. He was a big arm out of the bullpen for you. I could see Spencer Turnbull doing that exact same thing this year if he continues to pitch well. Now, it's only been 1 appearance, only 1 start, but it's hard not to look at that and notice how polished he looked, especially considering all the time he's missed with injuries over the past couple of seasons. So very encouraged by what Spencer Turnbull did. Very encouraged by what Bryce Harper did. Very encouraged by the Philadelphia Phillies effort in general last night in that win over the Reds, a 9-4 win. The game never felt truly in doubt because Turnbull was so solid, and you got a little bit of offense early, but it truly got broken open by the Bryce Harper grand slam that made it 8 runs for the Phillies, and that's where you're kind of like, okay, this one's over. Bryce Harper just took over this game. Insane performance by number 3. He went from having just barely anything in the OPS category, and he now leads the team in OPS after last night. That's how good of a night Bryce Harper had. That also shows you how early in the season it is. So we're still not at the point where we're looking at averages or aggregate numbers or anything. Obviously, it's still early, but the eye test tells me this team is going to be just fine. And another guy that was really good last night that we had no clue about before, I mentioned him a couple times in the offseason videos because he was an interesting name. He pitched internationally. He was a guy that had good stuff, and he was in the majors before, and then he kind of, I don't want to use the word flamed out, but he fell out of Major League Baseball, and then the Phillies signed him this offseason. He gets selected to go ahead and be a part of the team, gets called up yesterday, and now you see why Ricardo Pinto, I believe is the correct pronunciation, spelled like Pinto, but Pinto is the guy that the Phillies wanted up there. He went 4 innings in relief. He got the save in the game. He gave up 3 runs, 2 earned, but he looked like a guy that can contribute a little bit. You're going to need to see more, but that was encouraging too. But you know what's even crazier about Pinto? Not that he just kind of came out of nowhere and had a really important relief outing. I mean, there were only 2 pitchers used by the Phillies yesterday, and Pinto was a huge reason why they were able to get away with that. The story of how he got to the ballpark yesterday is insane. You got to hear this. I'm going to tell you about it in just a second as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Before Pinto, how about Prize Picks? Let me tell you about this, okay? Prize Picks is awesome. They're America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more than or less than on 2 or more player stats, and you watch the winnings roll in. Spring training's over. Baseball season, we know it's officially underway. You don't want to miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks entries. Might be strikeouts, might be RBIs, first inning runs. You can do all of those. Listen, take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. There are some really good offensive players on the Phillies. Bryce Harper, people are looking at it saying, okay, he broke out. Is he about to hit a hot stretch? You go more than on Bryce Harper home runs. Cool, like that. Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, had really nice starts to the year. You go more than on their hits. Cool. Wheeler's supposed to throw today. Now it might get rained out, but anytime Zach Wheeler throws, if you want to go under on any opposing players' hits and over on Zach Wheeler's strikeouts, you can do all of that stuff with Prize Picks. There's a lot of great ways to make some good money. So go ahead and check it out. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, you download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB. You'll get a first deposit match up to $100. Go ahead and check them out. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Let's talk about Ricardo Pinto because we already told you. I was just talking to you about the performance that he had. But you might not have seen it. You might not realize what he went through in order to just get to Citizens Bank Park yesterday for the game. I almost said in time for the game. That wouldn't have been accurate. He didn't get there till the 4th inning. I'm going to read you this tweet from Matt Gelb, who does a great job covering the team for The Athletic. And Matt tweeted this out after the game. So I didn't even know this until the game was over. The Phillies sent a car at noon for Ricardo Pinto, who was in Rochester, New York, with the Iron Pigs, who were on a road trip. He got stuck in traffic coming back down to Philadelphia from Rochester. He didn't arrive until the 4th inning of the game. Okay, more in a second, but there's more to that tweet. I want you to imagine this. If you've ever played any sport, right, and you're anything like me, I like to get as early as possible to the game, stretch out, get ready, do all my pregame stuff so that when game time comes, I'm locked in. If I'm there right before like the game starts, if I'm running late for some reason, I'm thinking more like way back in the day when I was playing like Little League or whatever, or even, I don't know, Babe Ruth ball, I wouldn't feel as prepared. I wouldn't feel as ready. I'd be like, man, I'm rushing to get here, and then you just rushed into the game, and next thing you know, you might not have your best performance. Then take that to another level and say, didn't get there until the 4th inning. Imagine pulling up mid-game. Most coaches would be like, you're not playing. Now, obviously, it's a different scenario, but most managers, coaches would be like, dude, you showed up halfway through the game? Get out of here. What are you even doing? And not only that, but now take that and put that on the major league scale, right? Ricardo Pinto rolled up to Citizens Bank Park in the middle of a Major League Baseball game with the team already playing, and he just rolls in the 4th inning. Rob Thompson talked after the game, said he might have thrown in the tunnel, but back to the tweet. He said hello to Rob Thompson, then went to the bullpen and pitched 4 innings for the save. So I just imagine Ricardo Pinto just walking in, just going, hey, Rob Thompson, I'm Ricardo Pinto. And Topper's like, okay, go to the bullpen. You've got the final 4 innings of tonight's game. Like, what? In a car from Rochester all the way there and then just rolls in and just pitches in a major league game and goes 4 solid innings. Like, how in the world is that even physically possible? I sit in a car for more than 30 minutes and my legs fall asleep. Imagine a car ride from Rochester. I'm sure it was a nice car. It's the Phillies, but they couldn't get him a flight. So you got to ride in a car all the way down from Rochester, New York to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to jump in and immediately face the Cincinnati Reds after a night where the bullpen imploded with Connor Brogdon, who was DFA'd. I don't know if I've mentioned that on here, but Connor Brogdon designated for assignment, which of course gave the room for Ricardo Pinto to be the guy selected. But that was a decision made that made it tough for it was like close enough to game time. Pinto was just like, okay, well, got to take a car. It's just, that's why baseball is awesome like that. What other sport could you have a dude just pull up mid-game and just jump into the action, right? Like only in baseball is this the stuff that happens. And only in baseball can that guy actually go out and dice and look really, really good. Now, I don't know what Pinto's future is with the team, right? I'm not, just like with Turnbull, I need to see more. I need to see more of this level performance before I say, oh, they're even somebody who can significantly help the team, much less deserve a long-term spot on the team, much less get them to a point where they're competing in the division and then postseason when we get to it. Like, it's just they're 5 games in. So we're not ready for these big, broad, sweeping claims. The Phillies have found Jeff Hoffman again. They found Orion Kirkering again. Like, no, I'm not ready to go there yet. But what I will say is that is an awesome story. And I can't imagine the level of excitement, the level of stress, and the level of accomplishment after the game that Ricardo Pinto must have felt going through all of that yesterday. That's what we call a whirlwind day. He could absolutely use the day off today if they do indeed get this game postponed. We'll talk about that in our final segment. But a credit to the guy. Pinto's been out of Major League Baseball for a handful of years now. Didn't make the team out of camp. Thinks he's in Lehigh Valley. Next thing you know, you get a call, you're getting in a car, and you're driving down. It might sound like I'm belaboring the point, but I need y'all to know how impossible it is what he did last night. Like, it is nearly as impressive to me, somewhat as impressive to me as Bryce Harper's 3-home run game. But still, it was a beautiful night for the Philadelphia Phillies. That's one of those games, you know what it was? You remember last year when Michael Lorenzen threw the no-hitter? Weston Wilson hit a home run in his first Major League at-bat after spending so much time in the minors. Nick Castellanos hit home run number 200, and the Phillies win the game. Like, that was a game where it was just like a magical, magical moment at Citizens Bank Park in a game where the actual game didn't really seem to matter as much. This was like the light version of that. You got a really cool start from Spencer Turnbull, who has had injury issues and got an opportunity because Taijuan Walker got hurt. And by the way, if you can hear the wind in the background, that's what I'm going to be talking about, the weather coming up. But you got Ricardo Pinto riding from Rochester and rolling in mid-game to just shut down the Reds. And you got Bryce Harper without a hit on the year. People say, oh, should we worry about Bryce Harper? Comes out and just mashes 3 home runs. Like, those are the moments that make this sport really fun. Those are the moments that make this team really fun. And the fact that they're able to do that and win, and hopefully as they get settled into the season more, win consistently, that's what makes this team a really dangerous baseball team against anybody. So great stuff from the Phillies. Couldn't be happier today doing the podcast. The hope is they can build off that, and it's not just win final game of the series against the Braves, lose, win, lose. No, you got to start stringing them together. It's early, but I just want to see them build momentum. And the hope is that they'll be able to do this whenever they play the next game of the series against the Cincinnati Reds. But coming up, I got to be honest, I really doubt whether or not they're getting this game in. It doesn't seem like it. I was just outside before I started recording this, coming back from the radio station. It's rough out there, folks. So we'll talk about what the chances are that they play, what happens if they do play, what happens if they don't play. We'll get into all of that as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. Let me talk to you about GameTime first, though, because GameTime is now an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch of the game. They got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. This is the perfect time to talk about GameTime because today's game is up in the air due to weather. If you find out at like 3:30 p.m., the game's supposed to be 4:05 p.m., that you can go to the Phillies game and they're going to play, go to GameTime. Get last-minute tickets. Get a great deal. If you find out they're playing tomorrow, game switches. You might be able to get an even better deal. Like, there's a lot of ways to save money with GameTime and still get great seats and enjoy an event. They've got so much going on. It's not just sports. They've got concerts, comedy, theater, all that kind of stuff. The big events you want to go to, you can figure it out with GameTime. They've got everything you need. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. For a limited time, all users can get $20 off any Major League Baseball purchase of $150 or more in the GameTime app with code FIRSTPITCH. So let's say you want nicer seats. You got like $75 each or the cost of the tickets. It's $150. You get $20 off. Look at that. That's perfect. You just go download the GameTime app, use code FIRSTPITCH, terms do apply, but you'll get $20 off from March 25th to April 14th only. So you got to do this soon. You got to use that soon. It's free $20 just sitting out there. I know you guys want to go to Phillies games this year. So download the GameTime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. The weather is not really cooperating with the Philadelphia Phillies to start the season. I'm surprised they got yesterday's game in. I'm ecstatic they did because Bryce Harper had one of the great single game performances I've seen in the history of the Philadelphia Phillies. But today's not looking great. They already pushed the game back from the original 1:05 p.m. start time to 4:05 p.m., thinking maybe they'll get a break from the rain. I've been looking at the radar. I've been looking out the window. It is windy. It is cold. It is rainy. It does not seem like a day where they're going to be able to play a baseball game at Citizens Bank Park. If they do, you're going to get a treat because Zach Wheeler will face off against Frankie Montas, and both of those guys have 0 ERAs right now, both really good opening starts to the season for those two players. You'll have to see how the Phillies could battle. Now, Montas pitched against the Nationals. Wheeler pitched against the Atlanta Braves. So there's levels to that. Wheeler clearly the better pitcher, but it doesn't mean he's the better pitcher on any given day. You hope you get another good start out of Zach Wheeler, but it should be a good pitching matchup in this one and one where runs will be at a premium. So it might not be the best offensive performance when this game does happen, but one that you would expect the Phillies to win with Zach Wheeler on the mound. So a good opportunity to build momentum. That's what happens if they do play. If they don't play, I'd imagine, because the Reds have an off day tomorrow, the Phillies also have an off day tomorrow. So they're both off on Thursday. That would make it simple enough for them to just push today's game to tomorrow. Some slight rain in the forecast, but not enough that it should be able to postpone the game. They should be able to find a window tomorrow. I'd imagine that today will be an off day. They will postpone the game till tomorrow. I don't know if it'll be the 1:05 time, the 4:05 time. Stay tuned for information on that to social media and the Phillies Twitter account. I don't know at this point. They could play the game today for all I know. I didn't think they were playing last night, but today's significantly worse than yesterday was. So I'm not expecting a game today. I'm not reporting that they've postponed it. That's just my personal opinion. If they do, they'll probably play tomorrow. You'll probably get the same pitching matchup, Wheeler versus Montas, and we'll get the final game of that series. And all that will happen is the Phillies off day that they were going to have yesterday will turn into today. And then they'll just be traveling. They'll be right on the road heading to Washington to play the Nationals, which is their next series. So we'll keep you updated. And if there's no game today, it'll be a fun episode tomorrow previewing that final game of the series. I might just talk about Bryce Harper for another 30 minutes on tomorrow's episode. That's how good he was. But that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for checking us out. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. Again, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And one more reminder, if you hear a different voice on your podcast feed, you click in to try and hear me and you hear someone, Mark Farzetta. If you're not familiar with him, get familiar with him. He's a great sports talk mind here in the city of Philadelphia. Very excited to have him helping us out. He's doing the postcast, reaction videos and reaction episodes after games, like immediately after. So you'll be able to hear from him. It's all just adding to the experience that is Locked On Phillies. So that's why you got to follow, rate, review, subscribe, all of that good stuff. But I've talked enough for one day. I'm only just going to get back into saying how great Bryce Harper is anymore. We could do that tomorrow. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. I'll talk to you next time on our next episode.